Good morning. This is the Great Basin prescribed fire briefing for Wednesday, November 13th. Looking at fire activity, we have quite a bit of projects indicated by the purple areas all throughout Idaho and going into much of Utah and even some parts of central and western Nevada. Small wildfire here, just a quarter acre or so here in southern Nevada. Otherwise, things are pretty much normal. Over the past 7 days, we've had a widespread area of mainly light precipitation. Areas in the light blue, a couple hundredths to a tenth of an inch of rain, a tenth to a quarter inch in this darker blue. You can see the percent of normal. So technically, it was a drier than normal week for mid-November, which can sometimes be quite wet. 100-hour fuels, because of the lack of precipitation in our southern areas, you see that this gold area here is 6 to 10% dryness on the 100-hour fuel chart. So that's kind of dry, a bit more moist as you go further north. We see that same trend in the heavier 1,000-hour fuels. The 6 to 10% range here in the southern third of Nevada into parts of the Arizona Strip. Well, that's kind of what we normally see in the mid to late summer, so that's quite a bit drier. Otherwise, mostly in the low to mid teens elsewhere. That's actually pretty decent for burning, not too moist. ERC point map shows some of the stations drying out a little bit, but most areas are below the 50th percentile. We see some of those drier areas, pockets in those red in the far south. Now, over the past 72 hours, we've had light to locally moderate snowfall. These blues and dark blues are generally 3 to 6 inches of snow. Some pockets in the yellow and gold are 6 to 12 inches, a few and far between. Snow cover on the map, some decent coverage across Wyoming, eastern Idaho, a good portion of the higher terrain of Utah, but mostly in that anywhere from 2 to 8 inches of snow cover. 8 inches being in the highest terrain, but mostly 2 to 4 inches in the lower to middle elevations. Now, this morning, satellite imagery shows some fast-moving, high, thin clouds spreading across the region, a heavier belt of clouds further up in the Pacific Northwest. And we can see that with later this afternoon at the upper level map, ridge of high pressure over the region, but we see that deeper moisture, that green and dark green, passing off across the Pacific Northwest and into portions of Idaho, drier air mass as you go further south. There'll be increased winds, so the ventilation index looks pretty good. Areas in the white and yellow in a lot of areas. You would expect that with the increasing winds that we see here on the left, especially across western and northern areas. And this is just the surface wind, actually. It's much stronger when you look at the transport winds. But at the surface, these are the winds on the left picking up in western areas. And you can see the relative humidity quite dry from Reno to southern Nevada in the teens, getting more into the 30-40% range across parts of Idaho. So overall, those are actually pretty good numbers to do some prescribed burning. Now, the transport winds show much stronger wind speeds in those areas, 30, 40 miles an hour. Very good vertical mixing of several thousand feet above ground level. Similar story for tomorrow. Trough low pressure carving itself out across the west. Dry, strong winds across southern areas. Some clouds up north. Very good overall dispersion. We see the winds at the surface not particularly strong. Humidity similar to today, with teens in the south and maybe a little bit higher in the north, 40 to 70% humidity. Transport winds starting to pick up a little bit. Now Friday, I wouldn't call it deep low pressure, but a low pressure area right along the tri-state point of Utah, Nevada, and Idaho. Rotate some clouds and moisture in. Some strong gusty winds across southern and eastern areas. Very good dispersion. You see the ventilation index, which combines both horizontal and vertical dispersion, being in the white, which is very good. You can see the strong surface winds here in the orange. Gusts, sustained winds, probably 20 to 25 miles an hour in those orange areas. Humidity starting to come up in a lot of areas in Nevada. Driest humidities down by the Four Corners. You can see the strong winds on Friday. These are the transport winds, and also analogous to peak gusts. We'll see them in the 40 to 45, maybe even 50 mile an hour range in some eastern areas. Also, of course, parts of Nevada and the Snake River Plain as well, but that's coming with very good vertical mixing. 3-day precipitation totals, just some very light amounts where you see the light green shades through here. Most of the heavier amounts are up in the northern Rockies and the Pacific Northwest. And then on Saturday, the trough thins out. We get drier northerly winds, more moisture off to the west, but a lot of that moisture is going to go more to the north or kind of fall apart a little bit as this trough splits in two. And then more of zonal flow and seasonable temperatures as we go into Monday and Tuesday next week. High pressure builds in. This cloud band you see here are more high and thin clouds. The darker green, the deeper moisture with good amounts of precipitation will be shifting to the north into the Pacific Northwest. Precipitation, this is Sunday through Tuesday, and then this is more Tuesday through Thursday, showing the heaviest amounts of precip in the Pacific Northwest, very spotty light amounts and only in the northern half of the geographic area. 7-day precip totals shown here. And the 8 to 14 day continues to show still a trend towards cooler than normal temperatures, and this is for the last week of November, 20th to the 26th, also showing a drier than normal trend. So even though we're cooler, we should stay fairly dry as the storm systems kind of shift to our north. This concludes our briefing. Next one is coming up this Friday. Have a great day.